What is up, guys, man? Let me know if y'all can hear me, man. It's been like I said, I've only done one live stream since moving, but we got breaking news today. I mean, I didn't see it coming. I know some people mentioned that it possibly could happen, but I mean, right now, Art Briles has resigned according to every major sports publication in the country. I think the Athletic was the first one that I saw that broke it, and they have been coming full force with the Art Briles articles. But I do want to say, man, the latest that I've heard is that Art Briles himself has resigned. This wasn't a move by Grambling. This wasn't a move by Hue Jackson. Art Briles apparently has released a statement that has said that he has resigned. Apparently, in his statement, according to the Athletic, has said, quote, "I feel that my continued presence will be a distraction to you and your team, which is the last thing I want. I have the utmost respect for Grambling State and your players." And so this, of course, comes after Doug Williams came out against it. I believe one other former player came out against it. The whole college football media world really and truly came out against this move as soon as it happened. There's been a few people who have said that he deserves a second chance. Others think that he should never get to coach in college football again. So this this may or may not come as a surprise to you. Let's see. So Mario said, does this mean Hugh's name doesn't carry the weight like many people thought? Maybe. I think it has more to do with just the power. I mean, everybody kind of came out against this hire, Mario. So I don't think it was, I don't know if it was the people inside of Grambling, because I mean, they released a statement today that they wanted him there. So I don't know if it was really Grambling itself. I just don't know if they were prepared for the backlash, Mario, like they got for this hire. Nathaniel said it's one thing to battle the power brokers in FBS who don't want another JSU, but Hue made a fatal mistake crossing the Me Too movement. They're coming for him next. I don't see him coaching a game. Maybe. You know how to know this wasn't going to fly. Nathaniel said that they aren't done yet. They coming for Hue next. Such a bad look on Grambling and that administration who had the chance to keep Hue in check and got cute and gambled everything away. Briles got bullied. A disgraceful to play. Grambling loses in all side eyes. So here's what okay, so I want y'all's opinion on this. When I first heard it, this was kind of my first thought. And for me, I knew it was going to have a lot of backlash. I'd said that in the episode that I dropped, but from a football standpoint, it made sense. But I don't know, I think the backlash was too much for them. But here was my initial thought: if you had to prepare for the backlash, right? Because for me, throughout this whole time since they've hired Art Briles, it almost seemed like Grambling didn't know it was going to get any backlash. And that's kind of what's thrown me off. And I want y'all's thoughts on this is how do you hire somebody like Art Briles and not and not know the backlash is coming? Like it almost seemed like it took Grambling aback that it was getting any pushback from the media, from players, etc. So I want to know y'all's opinion. Did Grambling just not see this coming, or did they just not expect it to be that much? For me, I personally think that they should have been prepared for this. And if you were willing to announce the hire like you did, you have to be able to take the backlash if you're going to stick by. Because now what you've done, in my eyes, is you've already put yourself kind of out there to ridicule and gave yourself a bunch of bad PR for nothing. You didn't even get to reap any of the rewards that you said you were willing to take the bad PR for. Now you take a step back and now you hired them for no reason, and now Grambling's in a horrible negative light. And so my question to you guys, and I want y'all's real thoughts on this, is what was the point of this now? You got a bunch of backlash and a bunch of bad press for what? To hire a guy for 5 days. I want to put that in perspective for you guys. Art Briles was the offensive coordinator for Grambling for 5 days, not even a whole week. He was the offensive coordinator for Grambling for 5 days. And you got everyone in the country just riled up. You got Grambling in a negative light. You pissed off probably arguably your best player of all time. And now what do you have to show for it other than a bunch of bad press? And I don't understand how they weren't ready for it. And that's my biggest thing, guys, is how did they not prepare themselves for the backlash that they were going to get for the hire? And now you pull the plug on it after 5 days, and I don't feel like like there was no point in hiring him if you were going to pull the plug in 5 days. Lee said same thing happened to Jay Hobson at USM. That's true. He said he was going to try to hire him though. They didn't hire him at Southern Miss, but they were going to interview him and it got knocked down. But I think hiring him and rolling forward and then defending him for 5 days and then pulling the plug unexpectedly was probably does not make sense to me. I'll just keep it at that. Ellis said Hue and Grambling handling this from a PR standpoint was a disaster. I agree with that. Um, we got us so much for September 17th. We'll see how that game looks, man. Let's see. People thought Hue's name carried the weight. It didn't. I like this one. Asleep at the wheel. They weren't prepared for anything, man. Art would have been another tool in the box. Only one coach to be able to pull this off, and that's Nick Saban. And Nick Saban would not even try this, Mario. Grambling got ahead of itself, doing whatever to try and win. They weren't prepared at all, and that's ridiculous. They wanted to beat JSU. It's about old versus the new. You don't fold for bad press, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you were going to announce the hire, you knew the bad press was coming. You knew you were going to get ripped by the ESPNs, to Fox Sports, etc. How do you, if you weren't prepared for that, why announce the hire? Because now you just look like you're backtracking on it, and it doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm just gonna keep it. I don't know how this happened personally. That lets you know the majority of the administration was not with the hire. That makes the entire administration look goofy. Big black eye, good coach, but bad hire. He didn't deserve the job with his pass. You win games, and everyone would be singing your name in glory. You can see the contract was not finalized. Well, someone pulled the plug on it, man. Someone pulled the plug on it. We're gonna beat the brakes off of Grambling. so if Hughes next was that set the swag back again. I do need to know what does this do for Hue Jackson? Does this put Hue Jackson on not a hot seat because he just got hired, but does he have as much leeway now within the Grambling athletic program that you thought he was possibly going to have? Is this going to take away from one is power, one is leeway if they don't win as quickly as they think they should? I think this really hurts Hue Jackson, man. The fact that they pulled the plug on after 5 days has to be a bad look for Grambling and Hue Jackson. Last week it was Grambling by 40, and now they're on hush. What's a good available OC, Chris? For me, like you're gonna have to hope you can go out and hire like a wide receiving coach, some offensive assistant from somewhere. But I would imagine Hugh has the connections, Chris, where he's gonna go out and pull somebody from a former staff or someone like that. Maybe they upgrade somebody from within, but that offense was so bad last year for Grambling. I just don't think you can do that. You have to go out and you got to hire someone ASAP. You cannot let this sit as you enter spring practice without an offensive coordinator, because I mean it's February 28th today. Tomorrow starts March. And now we don't, and now if you're Grambling, you're saying we don't have an offensive coordinator, and that was supposed to be the biggest improvement. That was the side of the ball that needed the most improvement, especially your passing game. And now you're kind of left out to dry there. So they got to hire somebody immediately. I think Hugh was blindsided. I do too, to a point, because for me, what he was just didn't his foundation like just tweet like a big support letter and then pretty much kind of admitted to tax fraud on Twitter today too. I mean, there was a lot of justification today, and now they pulled the plug before 6 o'clock tonight. It doesn't all add up to me. Real talk. Did he resign or he just quit? He resigned, Cortez. He released a statement that I read earlier where he pretty much told Hugh he was bringing too much negative press and things like that, and that he was going to step away. Hugh has no power. That was a university move. If I'm Hugh, I'm worried the admins show no support to me and my hirings. They just wanted to win at all costs. Can't do that at college football. This ain't the pros. This sucks not to get Art. Hugh's in trouble. Hugh's name's been brought up in tax evasion. Yeah, man, because he tweeted his foundation account tweeted about tax evasion. Today was a horrible day for Grambling overall, man. It really was. I think this was best. I'll take the job. We run in streaks and draws every play. Two play playbook, 80 audibles, man. Leon's got it figured out, man. Hugh thought his previous relationship with Art was enough to get him up over. Was it just hubris? Maybe. Could you see him hiring Carson Palmer? Potentially. Aaron, I think he's going to have to pull somebody with some sort of connections that he already has. Maybe it's a former player like Carson. Maybe he pulls from a staff that he has a relationship with. But all I know is he's on thin ice. This next hire has to be, I won't say elite, but it has to work. If you go out and hire an offensive coordinator and Grambling's the last ranked offense in the SWAC again, man, Hue Jackson's going to be getting a bunch of side eyes down there at Grambling and from all the media down there because now you've taken the chance. You've used up your, I guess, reserves behind you, your backup from the administration. So if you miss on this hire, I think Hue Jackson could be in a lot of trouble. I really don't feel like hearing Oscar rant about this. Oh, the media rolled on Art. That's crazy. All that winning would have made some good money for Grambling. Just pay me 75K. He worked for the team for 2 weeks, but they announced his hire 5 days ago. Well, after 2 weeks, they pulled the plug. We all know HBCUs need money they can get. Grambling would have been a powerhouse. Grambling JSU lost some momentum, and I was so looking forward to that game. I agree. Watch Hugh Jackson be the one to leave next. Screenshot it. I got you, James. I'll remember your name on that one. The SWAC has a rough, always a lot to move forward for the conference. Jordan Palmer, probably not. Norm Chow is the OC. Any team that doesn't have an offense, the coach right now is going to have a hard season. It's terrible. Doug Williams was willing to burn JSU's campus down if Art stepped on the field. Doug's dangerous. Man, I'm not going to argue with that, man. Doug Williams told him how it was and how he felt, and I think Doug Williams' statement really took Grambling's I would say Grambling's administration aback. I really don't think they expected Doug Williams to come out publicly and release that statement. I really think that shook him up where it was like, okay, um this isn't going to work. Let's see. Coach Simmons, man, shout out to Coach Simmons. Make sure to go subscribe to his channel too. He was really toxic in Texas. He doesn't have the best track record. Grambling will need to look at some top community coaches. That's the best bet in this time of the year. It's going to be tough, man. Scotty's about to go off. Yeah, Scotty's live stream in like 15 minutes, man. I know he's going to go. He's going to have something to say. I'm still looking forward to September 16th. Bring it. Grandmate pulled the plug. Art pulled the plug on it himself. Yeah, they did. Based on all the information we have right now at 6:15, Art pulled the plug, but I got a feeling that Grambling is not far behind with the statement or some sort of announcement or something like that. You just can't let this happen and be silent. They let the newscaster, the random news station break the news about Art, being hired. He had that, I would say, kind of cringe interview. I would say that really didn't do a lot. And I know a lot of y'all felt the same way where it's like you can't get him on screen until the season. And now they don't got an OC and it's about to be March. That sucks. We're looking forward to see what Art would have did. Doug sold out JSU. Doug Williams is the last person who should be talking about character. I'd rather have Art my program than Doug. Doug Williams doc on NFL Network. Dude went through it in the NFL. A hypocrite. This is worse than him staying. I agree. I'm with you on that. Listen, I get the backlash. I understand all that. But like I said just a minute ago, man, I really I want to see what y'all are thinking about. That's why I'm going through all the comments. Why do it if you were going to pull the plug? Because now you went through 5 days of bad press and everyone's looking at Grambling like, what was the point of that? You made it this far and you pulled the plug, and now you're still going to get the bad press for even attempting to hire him that you were going to have even if you kept him. So what did you gain from that? Because Doug Williams is still going to be upset that you even hired him. Now Hugh's getting side eyes from everybody. And I think today, if you look back, at 8 o'clock today, the outlook on Grambling is much bleaker than what we could ever imagine now, man. This is not a great look for Grambling at all, in my opinion. They didn't think Doug's worth anything. He showed them. What is Doug Williams doing from the SWAC? Does he have an offensive coach for Grambling? Maybe himself. Spring practice just started. Bad start for Hugh entering the year with no OC. This ain't fair to Art. He has to hire somebody this week. I agree. You have to hire somebody right this second. If Hue Jackson isn't on the phone with somebody who coaches football on the offensive side of the ball, I don't want to hear it. You have to hire somebody right this second. And that's how I feel about it. You have to hire somebody. If it hits next week, next Monday, and Grambling has not announced an offensive coordinator, I can't tell you what's going to happen, because that is going to be a horrible look for Hue Jackson and this Grambling team, man. Because you got to look at all the positive momentum thus far, guys. You look at bringing in Hue Jackson in the first place. You look at the recruiting class. You land Holloway at quarterback, a four-star transfer quarterback from UCLA. You still bring back Noah Bowden at quarterback. You bring back some talent on the offensive line. Then on the defensive side, you land some absolute stud transfers. Like, this team was built to compete for the SWAC championship, and now you don't have an offensive coordinator going into spring practice, and now your head coach is getting side eyes from everybody, especially with the foundation being under the microscope right now, and on top of that, pulling pulling the plug after 5 days on hiring your offensive coordinator. This was a power move by the old regime. This had nothing to do with Art's behavior. It ain't Doug's fault. Everybody hates Doug. Man, some of the comments, man. Some of the comments on Doug are pretty tough. You guys are on him today. This is so strange. I agree. Brennan Marion, great hire at OC. That I wouldn't mind that hard. I wouldn't mind that hire, Coach Harp. I think that would be a solid hire, but I don't know who's even a candidate right now, since this just came out in 15 minutes ago. It's really going to make it hard for Grambling. Hope they can come up with something. Most coaches are locked in. Yeah, because who's going to leave their team in the middle of spring practice? Not many, and it's not going to be anybody from a big Power Five school, because you're not gonna leave a Power Five OC job for this job right now with all the craziness going around the program. So you're probably going to have to look at some positional coach, somebody from maybe the D2 level, a top assistant somewhere, because I don't think you're going to steal an OC from a Power Five school. Let's see. All the bad press for nothing now. Now, if you don't have a good offense, Hugh's going to look terrible. Hugh better pick it up, man. He better pull that offense up. People are now digging into Hue Jackson's foundation. This is not a great few days for Grambling. Things change very quickly. We went from last Friday, people in the comments and people saying Grambling was going to win the SWAC, to now people wondering who in the world is even going to call the offensive plays, and is Hue Jackson's job even safe right now? We'll see. Grambling will be okay, just a learning experience. It was a tough learning experience. Hue Jackson took all those bullets until Doug came in with the cannon and aimed right at Grambling. Probably. There goes all them Texas recruits that Briles would have gotten for you. Yep. Gonna have to spend this quickly. They're gonna have to release a statement. Grambling has to say something tonight, or this looks just atrocious, in my opinion. You have to say something. You got to give me some sort of statement about what happened, where you're looking moving forward. You can't just sit on this tonight and say, "Oh, it's all good. Don't worry, guys. We got it handled." No, I need an actual statement from Grambling tonight. You think this will affect the recruits? You think they're giving the side eye? Um, Probably. I mean, so David, it depends, because there were some comments saying he's been on campus for 2 weeks, but he's only been announced for 5 days. Any recruit that he talked to, how do they have to be feeling right now? Any recruit Art Briles had a conversation with, a text message with, anything, how do you think he's feeling right now? I would imagine that it is going to affect some of the recruiting. And also, the biggest thing that high school coaches and counselors and everything preach to kids are stability. You want to look for stability in the best situation for you. And right now, I don't think Grambling can sell stability to anybody, especially with all the turmoil over these past few days. Um, Art resigned. It's not on Grambling. That didn't get rid of him. He left. Why though? I guess the media heat was too much for him and his family. Our IBB looks really bad. The lack of unity on this one stinks bad. Breaks would not have gotten into too many houses, or Briles would have not gotten too many houses. Y'all knew this was going to happen. I don't think the Louisiana board was going to approve the hire. That would be an interesting thing to see if the board would have approved them, or maybe they got word that the board was not going to approve them, and that would have been the other flip side of it too. Let's see. So apparently, as of right now, so the way the statement was formulated is that he left on his own. But for me, I still think this was some sort of joint decision. You can't tell me Art Briles was just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a step back," with no conversations or anything. Like, there's no way he just like dipped out the back door on Grambling. They had to have known it was coming, in my opinion. Now, so until they say otherwise, I'm going to assume this is still a joint decision, and that Art Briles was just like, "I'll take the bullets. I'll step down. I don't want you guys to have all this bad press." So we'll see. They better tell him to come back. I guess JSU's about to run through the SWAC. Still SWAC West champs. Grambling just wants to lose. Maybe T. Martin, the wide receiving coach from the Ravens, could be the OC. It'd be. I really like T as a coach, in my opinion. I really do like T as a coach. Now, I don't know if he'll step down from the Ravens, so will, but I do like T as an OC. Grambling knows how to make headlines. He will struggle to improve on 11 and 14. We'll see. Doug got full doing detective work on Hue. GSU is fine. You're acting like Hue Jackson isn't a better offensive coach than all the ones we have at the SWAC. Yes, yes, including our head coach, Vincent Dooley. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not saying that they're gonna not win a game or anything. My whole thing is that I just don't think it looks good publicly. I still want you still have to have an OC. Uh, you still have to have OC. As great as Hue Jackson is, he's still a head coach, and the best head coaches are the ones that take the CEO role, not the ones that are all involved in calling the offense and everything like that. He's a great offensive mind, but he's still going to have an OC. But it's just a bad look on Grambling, in my opinion, that this got pulled this quickly. Let's see. How does this affect Grambling and the transfer portal with guys already there? Um, I think it just depends, Michael. I think it depends on who they were recruiting out of the portal and how much it was important to them that Art Briles was there, which I can't imagine after 2 weeks there's too many that were there. And with him only being there for 2 weeks, I don't expect to see a mass exodus of transfers. Most of the transfers were already there on the team or signed with the team before Art Briles was even announced. Now, if it was used in the pitch, I don't know. I don't know if how long the negotiations happened, but I would imagine that this probably doesn't affect Grambling too much in the transfer portal, in my opinion. Hugh's going to have to pull a favor. Someone on the couch has some football ties. Things didn't go the way he thought it should go. Doug blew it up. Me personally, I'm glad he's gone. It's just about football in college. His track record was just too bad. I know I won't want my kids around him. That's a fair critique. Some of the recruits probably won't come. Only two ways Grambling gets out of this. One, he claims Hugh is a plant, or or Grambling needs to use that pin that Will Smith had for Men in Black to erase the past few months. Man, you were wild. I tried to tell y'all it wasn't easy to pull off as JSU made it look. Sips tea. Man, KJ is the best with these comments, man. She is hilarious. Hugh may have opened up a can of worms. Now people are looking at him as foundation. Grambling better have a backup plan. Man, today you got to stay off of Twitter. That tweet the foundation sent out. I was texting with Scotty in CFL, and I was like, why would you tweet that out? Why would you almost like? I mean, you pretty much admitted to like tax fraud in the tweet. Why was that up in front of everybody? Why was that from your foundation Twitter? So it wasn't a great look today on that either. All right, upper level. I agree. Doug Williams single-handedly ruined our season, if not the success of Coach Jackson. Ooh, you can hire a coach like Hugh, but if your leaders and base don't buy in, it's a wrap. A fact, man. It's a fact, KJ. You have to have the backing, and that's why Ashley Robinson and I mean everyone at Jackson State. What Coach Prime says goes over there, and I think that's unique. Man, appreciate you, Ron. Appreciate the support, man. I believe when the smoke clears, Grambling will be okay. This too shall pass. Probably it will pass. It will definitely pass. I'm sure they know the board wouldn't approve. Hugh put his name on the line for Briles, and for him to pull out would be the worst look. That's true. Fine and in contention for a SWAC title in a year, two different things. Man, KJ's talking to y'all in these comments, man. Let's see. I'd rather this now versus summer. The earlier the better, but still, man, going into March. Man, shout out to 3-5 Sports, man. Appreciate you tuning in. They realized that the offensive schemes were not his; they were schemes of Philip Montgomery. I don't think that CBI. I don't think that's the case. I don't think they real Art Briles designed his whole offense back in high school, man. So I don't think Philip Montgomery played any role in Grambling stepping away for this. I hope it was worth it for those who wanted him gone. Well, if you were Hugh, would you have made the move to hire Art? Um, let's see. Hang on. For me, I probably wouldn't have taken the chance if I'm a first year coach, to be honest with you, Mario. But for me, if I was going to hire Art Briles, I would have to make sure everybody behind me was ready for what was coming. That's like going into war and not having your backlines ready to help you out if things go south. So for me, I personally think you have to be ready for what was coming. You have to be ready. So you should have made sure the president, the AD, the board of Louisiana, your players, everything had to be in line for me to take that risk. And looking at it now, I don't think Grambling did that. I don't think Grambling did that. I think Grambling thought there was going to be a little bit of backlash. We can hang tight for 5 days, and then things got a little hairy, and I think everything took a different approach on this. So I wouldn't have hired him unless I had the full support of everyone behind me, and there was no question. My job security, everything was behind me. So I think that was what happened. What went wrong? Will the NIL deal be affected that Hugh established for the two? I don't think so, Hattie. I think that's completely separate, in my opinion, completely separate. Let's see. I just feel there's no way they expected this to work out. It was bad from the beginning. There's a lot of people that said that, man. Mario, the call lines are open, man. I think I fixed the problem from last time, so y'all can call in if y'all want. Grambling will be okay. They're a blue blood program. Their name precedes them, but this isn't the look they need. Yeah, I mean, listen, everything's gonna pass, man. I mean, if Baylor, Penn State, Michigan State, all the SMU, all these programs were covered eventually, I can't see I can't see Grambling never recovering. I think, like you said, it's just not the look they need. It's just it's a black stain on the like their public image right now. I mean, they're gonna be under fire for the next 2-3 days. They're gonna be right in the news cycle, and a lot of people are gonna have a lot of things to say. And I think that's the drawback of this. Art Briles will return to Mountain Vernon. He should have came back much sooner. I gotta say one thing for real. Hugh's decision making seems really suspect. So does Doug support the university again? Maybe. I want to see a statement from Grambling and a statement from Doug Williams. I need to see both because if you burned a bridge with Doug Williams for no reason, I don't understand it at all. I personally do not understand it at all. And whoever just called in, called back, man. I accidentally declined the call because I was going through comments. Eric, Art Briles steps away from Grambling, man. That's what you missed. I know you're an FBS guy, but you gotta get up in this got to get up in this FCS talk. T said the Bluebloods. Where do you think the best place to look for an OC? I think community, but only high school coaches probably available. I think you could probably there's probably some positional assistants that would take the job. I think you probably could look at wide receiving coaches, running back coaches, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's probably the best place to look, in my opinion. I think you have to look at assistant coaches. You're not going to land an OC from an FBS or FCS program. I think you need to look at positional coaches and maybe OCs at the top OCs at the D2 level. I think that's probably the only way you're going to get somebody. See, they're going. Oh man, Leon's clowning. Best of luck to Grambling though. This was for the best. This proves the difference in FBS and HBCUs. FBS, they keep their mouth shut as long as you win and the money right. We putting things blast internally. Let's see. All right, caller, you're live.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
How you doing, man? Guys, comment below if y'all can hear the caller. I think I got the problem fixed. Go ahead, man.
Yes, sir. I actually just saw the news today about the about Briles being Briles stepping down from the OC position at Grambling. I'll say this: I hope it was worth it. Folks wanted him gone. I really hope it was worth it. I hope that y'all got what they wanted in this, because what this tells me now is that cancel culture is okay. This is what this says to me right now. This says coaching culture was good, you know. And once again, people, they're getting very, very loud and upset about this. They're not getting loud and upset about the money they were or not getting from other classics they were in. They were not getting upset about their biggest advocate working for a racist and rapist organization. Now the Washington Commanders is what they're called now. So let's keep that same energy for other parts that come in, and not just a offensive coordinator. That's all I got.
Oh man, so I got to ask you, man.
Sure.
For you, like my biggest thing
Hmm.
was if you weren't ready for the backlash, just don't announce the hire until like you had all your ducks in line. You talked to Doug Williams, you talked to, whoever you need to talk to, the Louisiana Board of Directors, whoever had to approve the hire. For you, does it look worse now that they announced the hire and now he stepped down, even though they didn't, even though technically Grambling didn't fire him, but he stepped down. I mean, for you, how do you like what's the next step for them, man? So like, I mean, how do you think they recover from this?
Here's the thing. I'm trying to keep in mind as to whether um, I think it comes down to Grambling covering, but how do they recover from this? Because and see, this is something that everyone who was upset about this needs to remember that Art Briles was exonerated. Um, people need to remember that that Baylor actually had to pay out a $13 million settlement for like wrongful termination, something like that. And also the stuff that he was hit on, Baylor didn't even have an office there to deal with said issues at the time. So personally, I would have trusted Hue Jackson's judgment. And then the other thing about this too, and this is a part that hits really hard, is the fact that this was Hue Jackson's first major hire, more or less. So if I'm a coach, and if that tells me that, wow, people who are not, I guess, officially associated with the university can make decisions, why am I here? I think this will hurt Grambling more than it will hurt Hue Jackson because of the fact that you're going to ask for coaches to come in, but if the right old guard doesn't like it for whatever reason, and meanwhile they got their own skeletons to deal with, why would you want to go?
Um, Man, I don't know, man. I just like for me, it was just like I understand why the backlash was going to come. I think everyone who knew about what happened was
Hmm.
like there was gonna be backlash. I don't care if he got hired
Yes,
by USC, it don't matter. Like Nick Saban could have hired him, there would have been backlash, maybe not as much. But for me, it's like they just didn't seem prepared for it, in my opinion.
I agree. That part is fair.
Yeah.
I think that I think that Grambling School that is trying to reclaim its glory. I think they're trying to take its right place on the mountaintop, and they're trying to make hires and course decisions to get there. But no one ever said those hires and decisions were going to be easy. No one ever said that rising back to the top was going to be cake, and this is part of it. Um, so let's see what happens now. Because now the question becomes, who is going to be their next offensive coordinator? Are they going to get another swag retread that was there for like 5, 10 years ago? Someone says, "Oh no, this is a good person." Said it. It's like, yeah, but are they really that great compared to what they could have had?
That's a fair point of my I mean, that's a fair point to me, man. But man, listen, you're hey, first ever caller on the show, man. Appreciate you, man. Keep calling back in.
Thank you, Blue. Appreciate it.
All right, man. So let's see. David said, "What do you think about hiring Kincaid?" I mean, so Coach, I think Coach Simmons is in the chat. I think he's still in here. He had a whole video where he suggested Grambling hire Kincaid like months ago. He's younger though. I don't is Kincaid even 30 yet? Can anyone in the comments let me know? I don't remember if he's even 30 yet. Um, he's still young, man. And I mean, I think it would be a risk to a point it'd be a risk because he's a little bit unproven right now as a coach, but I think that might be a good way to get your base back, because I think there's a lot of Grambling fans who are very upset either side. There's you so for Grambling, in my opinion, you've upset both sides now. You upset the side that didn't want Art Briles in the first place. We got another caller here. What's up, caller? You're live.
Hey, what's up, Blue?
What's up, man?
Yo, sorry about that. So all right, so the first thing is was what was the direct reason why that Art Briles left? Did he decide, or that was like a firing?
So all we have right now, man, is his statement. That's all he released. We don't know if Grambling talked to him, if Grambling knew anything like that. All we know is that he released a statement that said that he felt like he was bringing too much negative attention to the school, and that he felt like it would
Hmm.
be better for him to step away. And that's the only statement we have from either side right now.
Okay, so he would resign basically. Okay, so we wouldn't know behind the scenes. I mean, I feel like it was some pressures by the heads, but I would say even though we don't know, we got to look at the whole perspective of this thing. It doesn't make sense to backpedal. Like, I believe the opposite. If you do the opposite of what quote unquote cancel culture wants you to do, you actually fare better and you get better results, especially when everybody's steadfast internally. So I was the guy that said the thing with the FBS. A lot of things why we lose on the HBCU level, we get too moral and too political. If the FBS, also I played at Temple and Grambling, so I got both experiences. Um, at the FBS level, it's more back room type stuff to where everything's not facilitated through the whole university. Everything's not up for discussion. I think the HBCU level, we try to be too. We got a separation of church and state. And if this was been, he's going to work somewhere else. I think people just they feel like, oh, it was heat, which I feel like you could have flipped it and turned it into a better story. Say if they went and won the SWAC or went to the playoffs, then we would have had a revisit story that's more positive publicity. So you don't. I think everybody's too short term nowadays. They try to run from the fire. Sometimes you just got to keep your head down. So that's just my take.
Oh man, hey man, I appreciate your take, man. Thanks for calling in, man. Have a good one.
Take care.
Yeah, so what I was saying about Kincaid is so you've already made the one side mad that didn't want to hire Briles in the first place by hiring him. Now you made the side mad that was happy about the hire mad that you fired him. So everyone's upset right now on both sides of Grambling. So for me, I personally think that that might be a good call. I mean, really and truly, to hire somebody that would kind of get your alumni back into this, get Doug Williams back into this. And if you're going to take Doug Williams' opinion at heart, like this kind of was, you gotta keep it coming. Let's get another caller here. What's up, caller? You live?
Hi, my name is Terry Sears.
What's up, man?
I'm calling from Atlanta. I'm a big Jackson State fan, Blue. I really am, but I think this hurts HBCUs as we know it. And I agree with the gentleman that said that the color far. This guy was exonerated. We had an opportunity to get a gentleman who's been forgiven, and like you said, he's been given an opportunity to redo his life. That's almost 6 years ago that this happened, and this guy's been forgiven, and I just don't understand why we would go through this, and we have an opportunity to create a pipeline for recruits all the way from here to Texas. Now, if he had been convicted, and he was still in trouble and he hadn't been, cleared, I would agree. But we have to stop. Whenever we get the chance to get something here at the HBCU level, it just feels like we are knocked back one or two steps. I agree. I think Dion made a great hire with the offensive coordinator that we had down there. But now imagine how that would have raised the bar if we had brought in Art Briles and he brought a gentleman who was not even really an OC. He was an advisor at
Right.
at Nevada. So, I mean, I guess that kind of caught me off guard. I just feel like when we're taking one step up, we're getting knocked back because it seems like a lot of the alumni really, really wanted this hire. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong. I'm just frustrated.
I mean, so for my show that I did on the hire, there were a lot of people who were really happy about it, but there were a lot of people who were skeptical about it. They wanted to see how it worked out. They wanted to see that interview. I really think the interview hurt Art Briles more than anything. I don't know how you feel about it. The interview with the news station where he looked like he's been locked in a cave for like 10 years. I mean, that
Yeah.
it didn't look great. I don't think that was great optics. And so for me, the bigger picture for me is what does this do for does this hurt the SWAC perception at all? Or is this just a localized problem for Grambling? And I think that's what I want to see how the media handles this, because I don't want it to turn around and people kind of expand it to the SWAC, if that makes sense, because the media has a history of doing that.
It does. He did the optics of it, but that comes from, and I agree with everything you just said, Blue, because I respect you a whole lot. I do. My
Appreciate
boy
you.
Blue, as off Rip always says. That's just so fun to me every time I hear it. But I think they didn't have a team in place to actually, like maybe one of the Power 5 schools or the PWI schools would have, like a marketing department would have made him clean himself up, get a haircut,
Yeah, no
get a good
kidding.
shave, and say, okay, look, we could have cleaned him up. But sometimes when it comes to guys like Art Briles, he's a football coach. And see, and this is something, Blue, and I know you'll understand this, and I know you got a lot of callers, so I'm sorry. One of my problems is this. Why go ask Doug Williams? Why Doug Williams didn't say no comment or just left it there? It seems like every time the cancel culture wants to get rid of someone or they want to do something in any community, whether it's the white community or black community or whatever, they go find somebody to give the media the right to start pressing on it. And I think when Doug did that, he opened the floodgates, because he was able to coach at that high school, if I'm correct. Wasn't he able to coach at that high school pretty much for like a year or two?
Yeah, I think it was Mount Vernon or something like that. I think it was Mount Vernon High School. And I think that's probably where he'll probably end back up anyway.
Yeah, and I just think when Doug did that, because the Washington Post came to him, and as I said, Doug works for Dan Snyder, and you already know the mess going on around there. So his conviction can't be that deep. And then with what he did with the Adidas deal when he left Grambling, he left them in shambles when he left. Now, I'm not saying that Doug isn't a great man. I'm not questioning that. I just question why put the microphone on him and get him to make that statement, and then after he makes that statement, all hell breaks loose. You understand what I'm saying? It just felt like, and then Art piled on top of it by coming. I mean, his interview skills was terrible. I don't know who recommended doing that right there, but the lady was a good journalist. She asked him hard-hitting questions. She got to the questions we all wanted to know the answers to. And he even gave us some more about how he had just been cleared again. The university even cleared him. Right. So the man's been cleared 3 times and been paid $13 million for being fired for wrongful termination. So Baylor had a problem campus-wide. It wasn't just his players. His players didn't commit all those rapes. That wasn't him. So it just feels like to me somewhere we had an opportunity to get a serious coach and keep the momentum going, and that was going to give us a pipeline into Texas, and they knew it. They knew it was going to get wherever that guy goes is going to give whoever gets him a pipeline straight into Texas. But I mean, I could be wrong. That's speculation on my part.
Oh no, man. I appreciate you calling in, man, and all your takes for sure, man. I definitely appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Blue.
Yep.
Right.
Later, man.
Bye-bye.
I also, guys, I don't know what's going on for some. Hey, got another caller. Caller, you live. I also, guys, I don't know what's going on for some. Hey, got another caller. Caller, you live.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up, man?
Good, man. This is Eric. I was in the chat. I'm a Duck fan. I was wondering what you thought about, you commented FBS versus FCS, which I think is really interesting. The European or the soccer model where like the best teams or the worst teams from X league move to the other one. I was wondering what you thought about that for FCS, FBS, because there's certainly, multiple teams from the FBS that would probably be better off in the FCS and vice versa, depending on who we're talking about better for, funding and all that. Like, as a Pac-12 fan, I want Boise State to come to the Pac-12, for instance. I was just wondering your take on that kind of movement, or if the group of 5 FCS is sacred.
I'll kind of speak on it briefly, then we'll jump back to Art Briles. But for me, man, I actually did an episode before we even got on YouTube about the soccer league model and how it would work. I'm kind of for it. I definitely am for it. I think it'll put teams in the fire, man. You know, like UConn, like, do you really deserve to be FBS independent? I don't think so. 'Cause I mean, I don't know if UConn could compete in the worst FCS conference, really and truly. I mean, that they deserve it. So I really think that would make a whole interesting thing. It probably make bowl games more meaningful. Like have the 10 teams who may be relegated or go up play each other in bowl games and make them more meaningful. I think there's a lot of cool things you could do with it. But I definitely like that, man. I appreciate your question, man.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much.
Yep, later, man. All right, before before the next caller, for some reason my wait room's not working. So if you're trying to call in, wait till I get off a call and call in. For some reason, it's just declining y'all while I'm on the call. So I'll have to fix the wait room, man. But call in if y'all got any thoughts on it. No one should be ashamed of himself. I give it Doug all the credit. I think the media said we're not covering GSU. Caller, you're live.
Yo, Blue, what's going on? I love the show, man.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
I just wanted to shine in on the caller who just got offline. The statement he made about he think it's going to put a little damper about the whatever you want to call it, resignation fine. It's going to put a little damper on Grambling with Art Briles. You know, not Grambling. He said the SWAC is going to put some damper on the SWAC as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that because I mean that's just like saying, you know, the Ole Miss when Hugh Freeze was at Ole Miss and he had some sexual allegations with the phone calls, or Joe Paterno at Penn State. It's just like saying he's going to put a damper on the whole Big Ten or either the SEC. So I just want to, you know, make a comment on that. I don't agree with that. I do feel it's going to affect Grambling, though, with the recruiting and the alumni base. I do feel it will kind of put a damper on that, especially with all the momentum they had throughout the season. So I feel it's going to put a damper on that. So, and one other thing, not to cut you off, but one other thing, it really, you know, irks me. You know, everyone keep on saying, like, forgive the man. He haven't been indicted. He haven't been convicted, you know, for the 100th time already. The NCAA have not implemented any rule, you know, for offense against sexual allegations or nothing like that. I mean, how can you, it's almost saying like a married man cheating on his wife. Yeah, it's wrong, but he can't go to jail for cheating on his wife. The NCAA have not implemented any rule to, you know, hold you accountable for this, which is long overdue. Because when you are a head coach and you come sit in a parent in a mother and father living room to recruit their child, you are their guardian. And if you don't be the responsible adult, you know, to go report sexual allegation, you should be held accountable for this. But the NCAA never implement any rule for this type of situation here. And I think with all this backlash coming back around now, 3-4 years later, you know, it's something they got to implement a rule for this, man, because it's crazy. Because those kids, man, you know, people really did get sentenced and got indicted over this. But Art Briles personally, he didn't do anything wrong because it's no rule implemented. They never did implement a rule. And like I say, it's long overdue.
Yeah,
you know, because these are serious, you know, allegations.
I'm pretty sure. I think it was last year or the year before. I'm pretty sure they have like a base law now, and I think they're going to expand it moving forward. So I think they took the steps to prevent that, because I think you saw it kind of go into effect with the whole Michigan State thing too, where they had where they had like the trainer that was sexually assaulting like players himself and everything.
Exactly.
I mean, I think he got a life sentence, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember all the details exactly of the horrible story that came out of there. But for you, man, I want to get the caller's perspective on this too. Is how does Grambling go about winning their fan base back over? Because like I said, I think they pissed off both sides, because there were a side that supported it and a side that didn't, and now they're both mad. How do you go about fixing that?
Man, like I'm from Mississippi, so I'm a Jackson State fan to keep it real. But you know, I love HBCUs, so I don't really have a comment on that because, like I say, I'm a Jackson State fan. But it do kind of put a damper on the momentum Grambling had. But for to say a damper on HBCUs or the SWAC, I don't agree. But man, that's all I had, man. I just wanted to shine in on that.
Oh man, well I appreciate you calling, man. Have a
Yes,
good
sir.
one.
You too.
Let's see. Cambria said he was there for 4 days, not going to mess up the recruits. There's a plethora of young men with friends and family who are assault victims who surely bypassed JSU because of Art being there. That's an interesting take right there. I don't mind that. Let's see. I'm trying to catch a little bit back up here on this. Let's see. We got another caller here. Caller, you're live.
Hey, Blue, good evening, man. This is Mohammed.
Oh, what's up, man?
Listen, I don't know. Well, I think, like you said, the whole thing was not handled properly with Grambling. And I disagree with them putting Art Briles out there in the interview. And I think Hue should have got out and made a statement on why he recruited him, what was the reason behind it, what he think would have worked. And from my understanding, the alumni was behind him. They were behind. They were happy for it because what cures all, Blue, is winning. Winning. Once you start winning, everything goes out the window, man. So I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are upset. I'm sure that's the issue. And to be honest with you, who cares about Doug Williams and how he feels? That's his own opinion. Because now if we bring up his record, what for the last 2 years, what was he, 2-20?
Yeah.
And okay, well, I mean, I'm not going to chime in on that, but I mean, there were some allegations with some of the things that took place when he was there. So, and I'm not trying to bash the man, but I think he was wrong for what he done. He should have kept his mouth closed. If that's his alma mater, he never should have made those statements. Who cares about Stephen A? You know who Stephen A is. He's just somebody just trying to get paycheck, man, and keep his name big in ESPN. Who gives a damn about him? So I was kind of disappointed because this possibility, my son might be going there, and I was looking forward to it. I wanted him to catch that weight, you know. But at the same time, I think Coach dropped the ball. I think he should have, like you said, and you were 100% right. Made sure everything was lined up and properly lined up, so they could have handled it properly. Because one thing for sure, it would have been a roller coaster ride. You know it was coming.
Oh yeah.
You know the wave was coming. So I think they never should have put him out there first. They should have allowed him to sit back, don't say anything, and let Coach Hue Jackson should have made a statement. I don't even think he made a statement. You correct me if I'm wrong, man. I'm gonna get off the phone and let you handle that and make, if I'm wrong, correct me.
Oh yeah.
All right? Good job, man.
Hey
Appreciate
man,
it.
appreciate you. I'm pretty sure Game would let me know because since I've been live, Grambling has not made a statement. I don't know if before I went live, I didn't hear any statement from Grambling yet. So we will see. Impact said he weren't criticizing Doug when he was winning championships. So Grambling, let's see, Michigan college football again. Caller, you're live.
Impact said he weren't criticizing Doug when he was winning championships. Grambling.
253, you're live.
Hey, Blue, this is Everett out of Seattle. How you doing?
Man, pretty good. How about you?
I'm hanging in there. So I think the part that we are all missing, everybody's saying that Grambling is a blue blood program. It's deeper than football. It's got to be deeper than football. If you look at the situation like at take University of Alabama, that's a private institution also, but Saban is running that. You don't really have a strong backing. Hue hasn't been there long enough. He doesn't have a winning pedigree. So why should anybody give him the benefit of the doubt on the hire when there's nothing, when he brings nothing to the table at this time? It'd be different if he was there 10 years, had won a few SWAC championships or whatever, but I'm not going to blow up the institution for Hue Jackson at this point. He's got to earn that right.
Oh, that's an interesting take. Well, let's just play the what if game here. So let's say Hugh is there for 2-3 years, won a SWAC championship or two. You think it would have been different?
Oh, I definitely think would have been different, because then the situation is winning cures all. Grambling is a great program, but they haven't won in a very long time.
That's man, that's an interesting take. I mean, I can see a little bit. I mean, like for me, I was told by all the Grambling people in the comments that Hugh had a lot of room because of what he did in the recruiting class. Because I mean, he put a excellent recruiting class forward. But I mean, I get what you're saying. You got to win on the field first. And right now, I don't like, he hasn't done it at Grambling. So for you, I mean, does this put any pressure on Hue Jackson to win this year? Like, what, like if he doesn't win, how do you feel like it will be behind the scenes?
Oh, he's on a hot plate. He definitely needs to finish in the top 3 in his conference. Period. He's on in any warm up period that he had, that's out the door now. Because you had the first OC, which wasn't his fault or whatever, that ended up going to the NFL. I think when you looked at the situation of Art Briles, everybody's thinking about the good side. What will happen if everything goes right? He's going to be an offensive genius. He's going to bring Grambling to the forefront. You could look at the same way as Prime. If Prime doesn't win the SWAC, he doesn't hire an offensive analyst. He's just not going to do that because, again, he doesn't have any leeway. But everything is rolling at Jackson State, so you can take the chance on that now. But I just don't think he has no savings account to be spending on. And when people are saying, oh my God, Doug Williams this and Doug Williams that, Doug Williams right now, when you think about Grambling and you think about an alumni who's given back, there's tons of alumni who've come through Grambling who've played in the NFL, but you don't hear them on news radio stations, or you don't hear them giving back or them having a say so whatever. You hear about Doug Williams. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Whether you like it or not, he's going to have some leverage with Grambling. He just is. Regardless if he, the last 2 years he really didn't win there, he's going to have leverage there. And when you have a strong opinion from somebody who's there as far as an alum, who's stepping up and saying, besides the fans who want to win in football, who's stepping up and saying, hey, I think the Hue Jackson or whatever and this win, bringing Coach Briles in or whatever is going to help the program. Not fans. I'm saying who is Grambling alums are standing up and saying they have something to do with the program. There's a lot of things going wrong with Grambling, and they need to win now. So I think, I think he's on the hot seat.
Oh, I like the take, man. Appreciate the call.
Hey, you have a great evening.
You too. Let's see. Life of Bill. Doug comes off as a hypocrite. He's casting checks from Dan Snyder. Ashley was going to let Prime do whatever he wanted as long as it made sense. That's a fact. That is a fact. Let's see. Caller, you're live.
Hey, Blue, what's going on, man? This is Kevin Pride from the chat, calling from New York City, man. Great conversation, man. You do a great job always. This Grambling thing is really crazy. I mean, when you think about how this all laid out, they had this man on campus for 2 weeks. They keep coming out saying throughout press releases that Art Briles we're gonna, is close to a contract. They put him on a local Shreveport sports interview to think that they can hide this thing and then not have a press conference to announce their new OC. It was kind of almost like they were trying to hire him but hide it all in the same package, and it just doesn't make sense. I'm sure you saw the interview he did with Sam Rothman.
Yeah.
He looked like he was just let out of witness protection. The look it didn't come across as a confidence look. It was almost like, look, we want to do this. We know he's a great football mind, but we just don't want to put it out there. Once it hit First Take and you had Doug Williams and Shaq Harris talking about it, and Grambling being a state-run institution, it never was going to happen. I think what has happened now is that Grambling has put themselves in the position, and you mentioned it earlier, where both sides of the fence are unhappy. The people who wanted Coach Briles and the ones that didn't want him there. So now how do you bring it together? I think you asked that question earlier, and the best way to do it is to almost come together as a group and say, hey, we're a family. We make family argue about different things, but we all have one thing in common, and that's the betterment of Grambling. That's the only way they can do it. I think Hue Jackson, whether people want to, with Doug Williams working for Dan Snyder, we get that, but obviously Doug Williams got this snowball running. What Hue and Doug Williams, if Doug Williams really loves Grambling and Hue wants to kind of clear the air, they're gonna have to come out with something. And I think Grambling has to come out with a press conference tonight. It can't wait till tomorrow till it hits the national media and the first takes and all that. They have to come out with something this evening and just say, hey, look, we did 10 days, like they mentioned, 10 days of vetting. We thought we had everything, but we listened to you. We listened to the Grambling alumni, the Grambling fan base, the people who support and love this university. They're going to have to do an Olivia Pope. They're going to have to spin this to a point where, like, we did this to try to win. We heard your cries, and we feel it's bigger than football. They're going to have to spin it some way. And all the powers that be that claim they love this university is going to have to come together and try to make this thing work. So, they got a big challenge, but I think it will pass eventually.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to pass, and I want to echo your sentiment on, like, the longer it takes for them to release a statement, the better, the worse it is. The worse it is for them,
right?
Because, like you said, because Stephen A is going to get on First Take tomorrow and rip you a new one. Doug Williams' comments are probably not going to be sunshine and rainbows come tomorrow. Like, I mean, you are going to get dragged through the national media like no other. I mean, and every Sports Center tonight is you're gonna be one of the top 5 stories on Sports Center. So I think I agree. You got to get ahead of it if you can, if you're Grambling.
Exactly. You're just going to have to kind of, take the sword. Hey, listen, we did this to try to, for the betterment of the university. We heard your cries. They're going to have to spin it that way because, again, even if with the whether he got fired or they asked him to leave or whatever, you're going to still get those groups saying Grambling doesn't care about women. So you're going to have to get in front of it anyway. Well, you're going to have you have no choice. So I'm really anxious to see, curious to see what they do this evening, or again, to have it where tomorrow morning when you have the morning shows, you got a comment that's been put out tonight that they can actually run with. So it ought to be interesting, man. But continue the great work, man. Love what you do all the time, and thanks for the time.
Appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
You too.
So let's see here. Let's see. Also, where was Doug and Shaq when it comes to fundraising for the program? The facilities at Grambling were atrocious. Hughes should have hired Briles as an offensive analyst instead of OC, then slide him in an OC at OC position after a year or two. That's an interesting strategy right there. I'd be interested to see if that would have changed anything in terms of the backlash and things like that. It's going across ESPN right now. It's going to be on and that's why I say Grambling has to do something. I mean, and I don't even know if Hue can make the statement because of everything that Hue's going through based off of the Twitter thing with his foundation today, that some ESPN reporter dug into the numbers. They didn't make sense. They tried to come back at him. It didn't look great. And so I think the president of Grambling, the AD, somebody's got to say something in terms of what went wrong with this and just kind of try to get ahead of it. Let's see, the SWAC West is going to be up for grabs in 2022. I think it'll be decided on the last weekend. Michael, I like that. I think the SWAC West is going to be one of the hardest divisions, in my opinion, to predict across college football. You have, you have so many good. You got Alcorn, who has won their division multiple times. Now, how do they replace Felix Harper? How do they replace CJ Bowler? They need to shore up that offensive defensive line. So they're kind of a question mark, but Fred McNair is that guy. Then you got Southern. Are they going to fix their QB problem? What's that offense going to look like under Dooley? You return Jordan Lewis and some of your top defensive players. Can you replace some of the talent you lost across the offensive line? That's a big question mark. You also got Grambling now with Hue Jackson. They landed a major recruiting class. Who's going to be the OC? Who's going to run the offense? Is that defense going to continue that really great play that they had last year at times? So I think the SWAC West is going to be it's going to be brutal next year. And then also, is there going to be a sleeper somewhere? Is PV not going to take the step back that a lot of people thought? I don't know, but I'm really, really interested to see what comes about in terms of the SWAC West. Let's see. Hue might step down. I don't like. I'm going to say this. I don't think Hue Jackson steps down. In my opinion, I'll be very surprised if he steps down. I do think that he has some questions to answer, most likely. But I personally, in my opinion, I don't see him stepping down right now. Texas Southern can win the West potentially. I mean, so my thing with Texas Southern is you have Andrew Body, who's a baller, but you lost multiple wide receivers. What is the talent surrounding Andrew Body going to be like? That's the biggest question mark for me. And then also, can you fix the defense? That defense couldn't stop a nosebleed last year, and so can you replace Michael Badigeau, the defensive end who's left? I mean, they lost a few players on the back end. I'm going to be interested to see what Texas Southern looks like, but I agree with you, Khalil. They're definitely a dark horse there. Blue, how could no one see this coming? PWI have been high on HCU's money media to push back on the narrative. I think for me, okay, so me being an FBS guy initially, and then just overall FCS, I saw the backlash coming, AP, but my thing was, and I've said it earlier in the show, I don't know how many new people we have watching or anything like that, but for me, you had like if someone was going to take the chance to hire him, you had to be prepared for the backlash. You knew it was coming. Everybody and their mama knew it was coming. And so for me, if you were going to take that risk, you had to be ready for it, and you had to be able to fight through it. You had to be able to. You can't. He couldn't resign after 5 days, is what I'm trying to say. You at least had to stick it out a year. It doesn't work. You move on your separate ways. You say it's a learning experience and move on. But I think right now you kind of have a weird situation now where now that you've pissed everybody off by hiring him, now he's not there, but everyone's still mad at you. And so I agree that everyone should have saw this coming. Maybe not to step down, but at least the significant backlash that this hire was going to have. My guess is the SWAC West champion will have up to 4 losses. The East will win the SWAC. I think that's a fair take right there. Boris said Doug Williams has no power to change the Washington football team. He and others have great influence as alumni over Grambling. That is true. Screw journalists at ESPN. You can cancel Christmas a few steps down. Oh, man. Listen, I will say this. If Hue Jackson steps down, man, you were talking about a atrocious situation for Grambling. I don't know where you go. Who do you even think about hiring if you have to replace Hue Jackson? I don't even know. I pride myself on trying to give you guys the best information. I wouldn't even know where to start making an episode. I would just say it could be anybody. I don't even know. I mean, you have to take a step back and say that probably is the absolute worst case scenario for Grambling if that happens. Blue 52 woman, how can the president, Hugh and Grambling, believe this one called smoke? Must have thought the Ukraine incidents with a private cover. Wrong. I don't know, AP. I really don't know. I'll have to retract my bet on Grambling versus JSU. Oh man, if you catch a seat from the government over that foundation, it might be a wrap. That's true. I know, I didn't really want to comment on it because I mean, I listen, I'm not a tax person. Listen, my old co-host is an accountant now. I can call him up and he can come on here and speak about it. But to pretty much admit to tax fraud in a tweet is not a great look. Let's see. Caller, you're live.
Yeah, Blue, peace to you, man. And peace to all the listeners out there. Do like and subscribe to this channel, by the way.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely. I just wanted to make a few comments. I mean, pretty much everything is redundant. People have said just about everything that you can say on there. But it's a couple of things. Like, number one, the whole Commanders thing is different. You're talking about a professional team, an organization that is owned privately by Snyder. And by the time Doug got on board, everything that went on with that was already going on, had already gone on, et cetera. So that's not the same thing. So I don't think that, to his knowledge, he didn't know anything about that. That was something that was in-house, right? So you can't compare that to this. And then the next thing is you're talking about $1 billion company, and now you're trying to compare that to an HBCU. So now, the whole story of people that haven't, been familiar with it. Baylor is supposed to be a private Christian school, and you have this scandal to go on under their watch, under Art Briles' command, right, at head coach, and they put winning ahead of the tragedy that happened to these young women, right? First thing. And then you see conversations with different instances that happen on campus where Art Briles was trying to see which police department knew what, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like the point that I'm making is that the pedigree is bad. Not the football pedigree, but the moral code that you try to instill into these young men, right? And even as it extends to the other sports, because you have women, basketball, you have women in other sports that are involved in the campus or whatever. So like there's a message that reverberates through a decision like this morally. And this is what Doug Williams was standing on. Because if you look at Eddie Robinson and what he stood for, you know what I mean? He was the pinnacle of morality, right? He was the maker of men from Grambling, and what he stood for and what you looked at when you looked at Grambling, you respected the brand. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So like there's a moral aspect to this which it puts a bad light on the decision making of the new regiment. Right? So you have Hue Jackson that comes in, and like everyone is stating, like you stated before, you have a good recruiting class, actually a great recruiting class. Hue Jackson is a great football mind. He's an NFL pedigree. You have all these things going that's good to rebuild the program, to get it back to winning ways, right? And I guess you just want to win now. You want to win a quick turnover, and you want to, the concentration is on winning, as it should be. I mean, you want to be a winning program and et cetera, but you don't want to win at any cost, right? I mean, I compare it to like a all girls music school. They're not going to hire R. Kelly just because they want to be great at music. It's not a good look.
That was one hell of an example. Oh man.
Right, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? And so like the whole point that I'm making is that, you can win. If you Hue Jackson, you should, your connection should extend far beyond a wider net than Art Briles to make this program get to where it should be. You understand what I'm saying? So like, I didn't like the hire when I was hearing the rumblings of it. I didn't like it for the standpoint of what it stood for from a moral standpoint. You understand what I'm saying? From a football standpoint, of course, it's going to make sense. I mean, you're going to win games, you know what I mean? But do you want to win under any cost? And then, God forbid, that something goes down at Grambling concerning an assault while this man is there. Now, then you just got something that you can't put back into the bottle ever.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So like, I'm glad. I think this was a blessing in disguise because it saves Grambling from what might have been. Right. And now you can move on. And now I think it gives them a clean slate to go into the season and just, take steps now to build a program without this continually to be an existence in the program, even though it will be talked about, but it'll pass. That will pass. Even though it's a hot topic now, it'll probably be a hot topic throughout the year, maybe through next year, but it won't be something attached to the program as far as like, this season and seasons coming forward. So that's the thing that I had to say about that.
Hey, I appreciate your insight, man. Great call. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate
you. Hang on, let's see. Who was the number? Let's see. I think it was 347 call back in. 347 call back in. And just for the new callers, I don't have a waiting room, so you'll have to wait. I'll get that fixed. Caller, you're live.
Yeah, I think it was 347 call back in. Hey, what's up, Blue?
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah, can you hear me? Everything's good?
Yep, everything's good, man. Everything's good.
All right, cool. First of all, I just want to say real quick, I truly, truly appreciate how you break everything down with the numbers and the stats. I'm a math guy, I'm a statistics guy, so that gets me real excited with everything that you do. So keep doing that, man. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. And I definitely have to second what that previous caller said. I remember a former senator, U.S. senator. He has this saying, a quote, and he said, Alan Sampson, that's his name. He said, "If you have integrity, nothing else matters. If you don't have integrity, nothing else matters." And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, is integrity. And the fact that Art Briles didn't report this thing, and I mean, this is egregious stuff that we're talking about. This is not, boys being boys and whatever the case is. And I'm a big proponent of a second chance. I mean, we all have skeletons, all of us. But for something like this, I would have loved to see the things that he did in terms of maybe working with a foundation when it comes to sexual assault or something that can show and that can have people actually vouch for him who's kind of been affected in that way, and to show that he sees the level of seriousness that happened under his watch. And during that interview that he had recently, I didn't hear any of that at all. And I was just listening to say, well, you know what? I understand, what transpired, and, I've tried to seek counseling or try to have a better understanding from people who've been through this before and something, because at least that way you can actually have people vouching for you, and you can actually bring character witnesses to Grambling and even speak with Doug Williams and all these folks to say, you know what? All right, this guy, he didn't do this, but at least he's a better person now based on what happened, and he's learned, and he's grown, and he's mature, right? But I didn't see any of that. Can you just imagine? Art Briles goes into, and it's most likely a black woman, a black mother, and her son, and most likely she has daughters. And you're trying to talk to them about coming to Grambling and how you're going to develop them into leaders. It's not only football only. They're going to be great men of character, hard work, all that stuff, because 90-something% of these folks are not going to the league. So you're developing them for life, right? And again, yes, winning is very important. I'm not saying it's not. But at the end of the day, these guys, when they graduate, let's say 22, 23, whatever it is, they have the rest of their lives to live. And you want to be a positive influence on that. So if you're sitting in my house and you're telling me about developing good character and leadership, and I know you have this thing in your background and you didn't do anything to grow from it, how can I trust you with my son?
No, I mean, I think you got a fair point, man, because I think there was a lot of questions. I mean, Art recruited really well while he was at Baylor, but there was a lot of questions on how are they going to sell it on the recruiting trail. So there's a lot of unknown about, how do you pitch to a family, like you said, to allow their kid to come. And so I just don't think the interview did what it was supposed to. I think they wanted the interview to kind of ease people's, lower their guard about what Art Briles did in his history. And I definitely don't think they did that at all. I mean, like I think it was 2 or 3 callers ago who's like, he didn't even get a haircut before the interview. I mean, he looked like he was been trapped in a cave since he left Baylor. So I don't think the interview did them any favors.
No, he looked very disheveled. And you're absolutely right. And I mean, Hue Jackson coming to Grambling, everyone, I couldn't find anyone saying that this was a bad thing. Everyone glowed about Hue Jackson coming to Baylor. I mean, we saw the type of recruiting that he brought. So Jackson on his own strength can bring in a lot of great players, you know. And on top of that, he's been an OC before. He's called plays before, and I'm sure Hue Jackson can find an OC that's pretty good. Doesn't matter what color he is, black, white, to me doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, for you to, it's one thing to bring Art Briles, but what have you done since? Have you grown? And that's the issue. It's almost as though when I see him, it's as though it's like I can't trust him with these people, with these guys. They have girls on campus, all this stuff. I can't trust you because I haven't seen the growth. And it's unfortunate for Hue Jackson that he didn't see that, or he didn't appreciate that as much as he looked at X's and O's and wins in the win column for Hue Jackson, for Grambling. But I saw this train coming, because when I heard Art Briles, I was like, man, I don't know about this one. Like it just didn't. You probably have this too, because you're like an honorary. You got some soul in you, so you probably know when we say it just don't sit right in our spirit. It just don't sit right in our spirit. So that's just what the whole thing was about when I saw that and I heard about it.
I think that's a good take, man. I appreciate your insight, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. You keep doing what you do, man. I appreciate watching you, bro.
Appreciate you, man. Let's see. Hang on. I really like this comment right here, where it's like the forgiveness is a process. I think Grambling thought that they could, I guess, speed it up by that interview and introduce and trying to kind of get them in, but I don't think it was. I guess it, based on what we saw now, it was not time. Art Briles could have been in a clean cut tux and it would have made no difference. Probably not, man. Probably not. And no one's watching the Celebration Bowl without prom. Oh man. Doug don't care about winning, man. I don't know about that one, man. I like there was a lot of argument, and I saw I don't remember who it was. I believe it was oh, it was I think it was Ken Clark too. That him and somebody were going back and forth on Twitter about it. And I mean, I thought he made some really good points in terms of how bad it looked after what he went on and said about Brian Flores on the Pivot podcast and things like that. So I just think there was a whole lot of layers, in my opinion, that I think contributed to the pushback that that this hire got. Grambling needs to hire someone quick. Spring training is already here. Yeah, Mr. G, I think we talked about it earlier. I need someone hired by next Monday. I got to have something done in the next week. And if it's not finalized, I at least need to hear some rumors with some names or something like that, because you cannot go into spring football or have your spring game, God forbid, without an offensive coordinator. And I also don't know the process is going to take, because a lot of the candidates who may have been candidates a few weeks ago aren't probably going to be candidates now, because they're not going to try to lead their team in the middle of spring ball. It was kind of similar to what Kansas with the head coach went to, where Les Miles got in a bunch of trouble. He had to step down, and it was like mid-May or maybe late April. And so you're after the spring game, you got to go hire a new head coach. And so I just think right now Grambling's in a very precarious situation. So I'm very interested to see what that next step is going to be to kind of to fix the problem. Let's see. Different places. Let's see. And also like this comment right here, I think it was Sonic Boom, where it's HBCUs have too much attention right now, and Art Briles probably need to start somewhere with less attention, like you mentioned, Rick Pitino or someone else did. And I just, looking back on it now, man, this whole process for Grambling really backfired on them. But man, get your last thoughts. And also I want to know, I mean, for you guys, looking back on the hire now, where do you go? Where do you go now? Like, what do y'all want to see? Like, how soon do y'all want to see someone hired? Who do you have any ideas of who you want to be hired? And right now, man, how do y'all feel about Grambling's season before we jump off here in just a minute? See, Grambling and Hue are at odds, so they can lose Hue and Art at the same time. Hollywood, I would say they probably won't lose Art unless it's forced. unless something happens off the field and something forces Art Briles to go, I can't see him stepping away. We got another caller here. What's up, caller? You're live. Oh. Let's see. 701 call back. 701 call back if you still want to call in. Let's see. Grambling needs to call Bruce Eugene, already coaching high school football. Actually, was Noah Bowden's head coach. He's Grambling royalty. That'd be an interesting one. I know somebody already said. I think it was Kincaid, Devontae Kincaid, may be coming back, but I mean he's only 28, so I think that might still be young. And I don't know how much leeway you're going to have, even to take a risk on somebody right now. Hugh got a top tier OC and extreme discount. He won't find one near that caliber in 2 weeks. I agree. It's going to be a step down in terms of potential. Maybe you just proven something, but I'll be interested to see what he does. Didn't this feel rushed? It seemed Jackson was trying to roll the dice to get Grambling as fast as possible. So he can redeem himself. Probably, I feel like Sonic Boom it also played a role that they felt like, one, they needed an OC quickly. Spring practice was coming along. And on top of that, man, the SWAC has upgraded so much in terms of coaching and talent and everything like that. I feel like Grambling knew they needed to compete right away. If Hue Jackson went out there and went 2-10 or 3-9 or something like that, it would have looked really bad on Grambling. So I think they had to go out there and get somebody real fast, and they wanted to try to get the best bang for their buck. And in terms of on the field potential, they might have, but I don't think they looked around the corner to all the pushback they were going to get. That hire would have been perfect for this upcoming season. Who is the villain to JSU now? I would say probably as crazy as it is, it's got to be in their division. Joseph, it's got to be either Alabama A&M or Florida A&M. That's probably the villain to JSU this year, to be honest with you, especially after what Jackson State did to Alabama A&M. 61 points on their homecoming in their home stadium. And down in Mobile, it's going to be a game. And I talked to Connell Maynard at the HBCU Combine, and he's motivated too. So I think it has to be Alabama or Florida A&M. That was a clear example that HBCUs need better SIDs and public relations specialists to advise the best ways to proceed in matters like this. I believe the PR rollout is what killed this. I like that. The PR rollout was terrible. I have never once seen a school hire somebody, especially an OCDC/head coach, without doing a press release. Why would you want a news station to control the narrative of your hire? Control your own narrative. If you're Grambling, why would you pass that off to some random news station and news reporter? Keep that in-house and roll it out like you like. Why? I don't understand why they passed that off to a news station. That was really weird in my opinion. Let's see, did Briles resign? Deputy Mario, he resigned probably about an hour and a half ago. I think we've been going live for about an hour and a half. So about an hour and a half ago, he resigned, man. Grambling will be fine. I'm wondering what Doug Williams and Hue Jackson's relationship was like before the hire, and what will be like going forward. We'll see. I'm interested to see what the statement is going to look like, Mr. G. I really do. I want to know if Hugh's going to make a statement. I want to know if Grambling's just going to release some press release. I need Grambling or Hue Jackson to make a statement tonight. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Hue Jackson has an interview tonight. I saw someone on Twitter say he had an interview, but it was supposed to be about I would say it. I think it's about his foundation, if I'm not mistaken. But now you have this hanging over your head, so I think Hue Jackson is going to be in a little bit of a precarious situation. So I would like to see Grambling just do a press release. I hate to say it, but I don't trust Hue Jackson. Sonic Boom, call in and say why, or comment why. Why don't you trust Hue Jackson? Maybe he can find somebody that coached under Art. Maybe. Let's see. We got another call here. Caller, you're live.
Yeah, this is Corey Lee. And I live in Nashville. I don't really get. I mean, I get the backlash, but my thing is this: is that okay? If he was on a 5-year suspension by the NCAA, so at what point in time that you hold a coach accountable if the players, which I think was 2 of them, were convicted? If the young ladies call the authorities, then how do you hold the coach accountable for that? It's like is that like a death sentence for the rest of his life?
It's probably not a death sentence for the rest of his life. I think someone made a comment. It just kind of depends on when I guess people kind of get. I don't know how to even like word it, but it's probably not a death sentence because I mean he's coaching in high school. So I mean, if you're allowing him around high school kids, I'm assuming that eventually a college is going to give him a shot and face the backlash, but it'll probably have to be a few more years. But for me, I think the backlash comes because Title IX that they put in the schools makes the head coach, even if they call the authorities, even if it happens off campus, on campus, regardless, it's up to the head coach, the coordinators, the coaches on the staff to report that to the proper channels, and then it goes up to the board because for every sexual assault case, the school has to do an internal review and report it and things like that, and make sure that there's like a fair investigation. There's no like, oh, like this is a football player, so we're gonna have to sweep it under the rug. It's supposed to be the school's idea to make sure everything goes smoothly. So there has to be a police investigation and a school investigation in terms of that. And so that's where most of the backlash came from on that.
But would the report to the police, would that not automatically trigger the investigation by the school?
No, it's still up to the coach and or AD to report that to the like I guess board. I forgot exactly what the department is called, but there's like another step above them that you have to report it to. And now after the Baylor situation, it's law. Like people will go to jail if they don't do that now.
Well, who would be most vulnerable? High school kids or college kids? Now, he coached in Texas high school ball. You didn't hear any backlash around the country from that. And I'm rolling with JSU, but I just think that that this one got just a little out of hand from, if it's law now, but it wasn't law then. You're holding the guy who was not there, who did not commit the offense, accountable for something that a couple of dumb players did. And I just don't. I'm missing something somewhere. And I know this your show or whatever, but I want you to take this into context. The Me Too movement was not going to affect a HBCU like it would somewhere else. I mean, in my opinion, is my opinion, and I just think that thing got just way out of hand for somebody who didn't commit an offense when it was not law. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you mean. It's also it doesn't help. So, if you follow me on social media, hit me up and I'll have to send you. There were some text messages that were released too that showed that he knew about it and pretty much tried to cover it up too. So that's another whole aspect where he pretty much was like, "Oh, why was she hanging with that player? We knew he was a bad guy. She knew this, she knew that," and pretty much was like victim blaming too. So it wasn't just like a single incident that he didn't report. I think there were 3 players his last year. I think they ended up adding up to like 15 or something. I'll have to find the exact report, but there were also text messages where he was also actively trying to cover it up. So that's also another problem that they have on top of that. And a lot of the assistants also got kind of held accountable for that as much as they could. And now the NCAA passed a new rule where if you don't do that, it pretty much means your job at this point.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then I understand it. But that part I didn't know. I just was thinking that they were just saying, "Oh God, he didn't say anything about it." But if he was doing that and he knew about it and victim blaming, then can his ass. I mean, I can roll with that.
Yeah. But
see that part was not really, that point of emphasis was never made in this whole Grambling State thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the text messages were really bad. I mean, the text messages really and truly were terrible. But the part that a lot of the people supporting the hire were saying was that the AD, I believe in the comments, they said he works at Liberty now. So the AD got hired. His son's the OC at Arkansas. I mean, so everybody who else was involved in the scandal pretty much got a second chance. And so their argument is why can't he get a second chance? And it just looks like that Grambling, I don't think was prepared for the backlash, man. I think I think, it's hard for me to believe, and I'm sure you are the same, that Art just pulled the plug by himself, that he didn't talk to anybody. He just pulled the plug because he pulled the plug. I would imagine that this was an effort on everyone's part to kind of stop the backlash in its tracks.
Well, I mean, like I said, if you were taking account or take away what you just said about covering it up. Boy, it was about to be one hell of a damn football game on September 17th in Jackson, Mississippi. All eyes in America was going to be on that game right there.
Oh, that would have been a game where they probably would have flexed it to like ESPNU or something like that potentially. I mean that Deion Sanders versus Hue Jackson, and then you got the Shador.
It's scheduled for ESPN2. That game is scheduled for ESPN2.
Oh, really? Oh, that's big.
Yeah,
that's big.
And, I was figuring the ESPN2, and then that was going to be that 60,000 people sellout, with no doubt, and it still probably going to be.
Right.
But, golly, that was a game that people, I know for myself, I was waiting for. I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, man. I'm hoping there's still plenty to look forward to then this season for the SWAC. So I'm hoping that he makes a good hire, that team lives up to the hype, man. Because I think we can all say on this show the more better teams there are on the SWAC, the better it is for the whole conference, man. I want everyone to be good because I think everyone will be excited to see. I think the Orange Blossom Classic is going to be amazing. You got Campbell, Jackson State on homecoming. I think you got a lot of teams that are looking up in the SWAC right now, so I'm excited for it.
Well, my last comment, I'm out. But Jackson State has got really the gauntlet their first three games of the season. I mean, all three of those teams are capable of beating Jackson State the first three games. I mean, I'm rolling with JSU, but Tennessee State is going to be much better than people think. And, FAMU, that's going to be a good one. And this Grambling State game is going to be a good one. So, I'm looking forward to it. But, I hated that the narrative got twisted the way it did, and like all the information was not put out or made readily available before the big backlash started. But that would have been a game for the ages, probably the most anticipated HBCU game ever.
Oh yeah, and especially if they both go in somehow undefeated, like if Grambling would have upset Arkansas State or something like that. I mean, that game would have just been those tickets would have just been outrageous, man. But listen, Corey, man, I appreciate you calling in, my man. But definitely keep calling in, man. Future shows.
Okay, then we'll see.
Yep. So let's see, we got a bunch of questions. So Deputy said, hold on, Blue, Grambling is still good enough talent-wise to win the SWAC West. Would you agree? But the backlash and court of opinion is really tough. I would say Grambling's not I wouldn't say Grambling's out of the SWAC West race. I think you got major question marks around pretty much every school in the division. I would say PV has 1,000 question marks surrounding them in terms of quarterback and coach and how you're going to replace all the talent that you lost on that team. I think you also UAPB, lots of question marks on how they're going to rebound after a really tough season. Southern, are they going to get a quarterback? What's that team going to look like under Dooley? Alcorn replacing a one of the best players in Alcorn history, and Felix Harper, who really led Alcorn to some great games. So I think there's a lot of questions, man. So I think Grambling's still in the contention for the West. I just think the ceiling is probably just a little bit lower right now, but I want to see who they hire first before, I say for sure, one way or the other, but people are going to tune in, like Sean said up here, and I think Grambling is going to be fine in the long run, man. It's just a black eye right now, publicity wise, but on the field, they're still very, very talented enough to win. I want the SWAC to get good so they can come take some weapons from the Valley teams. Man, listen, Dave, you guys got North Carolina A&T this year, man. You got North Carolina A&T. Grambling is probably the last school to take this risk. FAMU, Campbell, and Alabama A&M. What SWAC team has a tougher first four games than Alabama A&M? None. None impacts. Those first four games for Alabama A&M are just atrocious. I don't know how Condo Manor scheduled those top four games because, I mean, you got UAB, Troy, then you got Austin P, and then you got FAMU. So, I mean, that's a brutal schedule impacts. At Alabama A&M, we're going to know what they have in the first 4 weeks of the season. If GSU held a press conference this morning stating they were hiring Art and using his experience as a tool for what not to do with sexual allegations, it might have worked. Maybe. We'll see. Sonny Vu say getting season tickets tomorrow. Bummer, glad to get my tickets yet. JSU O-line could be a little better than last year. They can dominate. all they need is a little bit better, man. Last year the O-line was just so bad. I really think, I mean, just imagine the stats that Shador and that wide receiving core could have put up if they would have just had any sort of blocking up front. We'll see. Blue, give me your records for Grambling with and without Briles. Oh, let me look up the schedule real quick, man. I don't remember the schedule off the top of my head. Let's see. I have to pull this up, man. You put me on the spot with that one, man. Let's see the 2022 schedule. I'm going to give you a loss at Arkansas State, Cortez. I'm going to give you a loss at Arkansas State. I'm going to give y'all the win over Northwestern State. I don't think that's a very good team this year in the Southland. I'm going to give you guys an L at Jackson State. I think on the road that game's going to be too much, and I really think that Jackson State team's going to be clicking by week 3. I'm going to give you guys a win over Bethune. So we got you guys at what, 2-2 right now. I'm going to give y'all 3-2 over PV. Probably 3-3 at Alabama A&M, 3-4 against FAMU, 4-4 against Alcorn, 5-4 against UAPB, 6-4 against Texas Southern, and right now I like Grambling more than Southern. So I'd say I'm going to give Grambling 7-4 right now, Cortez. 7-4 is the record I'm going to go with on Grambling, and that's right now. I think probably 8-3, 9-2 would have been the record with Briles if I had to guess right this second. What happened to the other NDSU guy that used to come on here? Sonic Boom. I think that's the same one. Are you talking about Dave? Because I think he just changed his YouTube name. I think that's still Dave. So I think that's the same NDSU guy. So we should give Alabama A&M cookie for their schedule. They got to win. We'll see. Let's see. I like Travis Hunter at wide receiver more than I like him at DB. He's going to be special on the offensive side of the ball. I've heard a lot of people say that, man. I think he's going to be good wherever he plays. Man, you could play Travis Hunter at any position, and that guy's going to be a difference maker. So I like it. They have to find their QB and see what their defense is going to be like. I think Grambling's defense is going to be fine. They didn't lose a lot of talent. They added a lot of talent this offseason. The biggest question for me is the wide receiving core and quarterback. And that's last year they had the worst passing offense, maybe in FCS. That passing offense was atrocious. I mean, I think they only had like 9 passing touchdowns and they had double-digit interceptions. That passing offense was atrocious for Grambling. That's going to be the biggest question mark, in my opinion. It will all come down to the OC. Even if we have an improved offensive line, we can't constantly run long developing plays. I like that. Alabama A&M will not be 0-4. I agree. They're not going to be 0-4. I think I definitely think they can compete with Austin Peay. I don't think I'm not sure what Austin Peay is going to be. They have a lot of turnover this year. They got some young guys that I want to see how they develop. I think Alabama A&M right now is better than Austin Peay. So that's the one game I'll favor you in. I'm sorry. I don't think they're going to beat UAB. They're depending on what Troy brings out, maybe, but probably not. I think 2-2 is probably the top out of those first 4 games for Alabama A&M. You got to go beat FAMU, which is it's going to be an interesting one. Let's see. Grambling always has had a good defense. That's what I'm saying. They always representing there. Dave must be his alter ego. True. Tough for Grambling. Season can't come fast enough, bro. Man, I'm telling you, I'm a football guy, so all the storyline talks and everything that we do on the show, do it for y'all. But I'm a football guy. I would preview games all day, every day, talk X's and O's. So I'm excited for that, man. But guys, I appreciate y'all, man. I'm shutting down the call line right now. But man, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Like I said, Grambling and Art Briles going their separate ways. Art Briles is resigning from the OC position at Grambling. As I hear more news about who they're hiring and things like that, I'll update y'all. I guess things to look for on this channel. We got an interview with Michael Badajo, defensive end for Texas Southern. We caught up with him at the HBCU Legacy Bowl, and we came on for an extended interview. And also got Norfolk State defensive end Deshaun Dixon coming on the show later this week, man. And we're also going to do a mailbag. So listen, for mailbags, please message us on social media. Leave a comment on this episode of topics y'all want to discuss on the mailbag. The mailbag will either be tomorrow or Wednesday. I'll make a post on it on YouTube, so turn on your post notifications for that. I'm going to try to pray So you might see me there. Me and Cut have talked about it. We're going to try to be at the pro day, so stay tuned for that, man. But guys, for the Blue Bloods, we are out for right now.